welcome to another live episode. I am your host, WIZE, and today my guest is a transformational coach who I'm excited to have on the show. Welcome, Brandon Handley. Hey,
Hey, how are you? It's good to be here today. Thanks for
oh, the,
having me.
the pleasure's all mine. So let's just jump right into it. So, can you share your personal journey of awakening and how it led you to become a transformational coach?
Yeah, sure. I think that you see a lot of people, talking about, waking up or having an awakening and setting it up, or go do XYZ and you'll be awake, right? And that's just kind of that's not the process I went through. And you also see a lot of people talk about needing to go through a dark night of the soul, right? Like dark night of the soul, and that didn't happen for me, right? So I feel like my process, or what happened for me, and the transformation was a little bit different from quite a few people. Uh, One of the things I'll point to was actually podcasting, right, as a part of my journey in transformation. And what happened was I was doing a podcast on fatherhood, right? And I was, working to become a fatherhood coach. I'd already gone through coaching, had coaches, and I was like, man, coaching is just awesome because you get to help other people step into the truth of who they are, become like super powerful, and live a life that maybe they want to live, right? Like a little bit more designed in a way. So I was doing that, and I was doing a podcast on fatherhood, and at a certain point, I was drinking way too much all the time, and I was forcing like these family things. I was like, we got to go do this because it's gonna look good for social or whatever, right? Like I was coaching soccer because I wanted to meet like people and build my network, and I was doing all the things you're supposed to be doing, but I wasn't doing it for like the right reasons, right? My audio wasn't matching my video per se, and there was a certain point that I got to as I was going through this process. That a couple things happened that are kind of key in leading up to this awakening for me. And one of them was, I was in the middle of doing this podcast and doing all this work on fatherhood, and my 6-year-old son Finn walks into my office, and he sees that I'm busy and I'm doing stuff, and he's like, "Man, I'm just gonna go back. Looks like you're really busy." I was like, "No," because I could see like he was just kind of like this pause in a moment, and you could literally visualize every direction that your kid's gonna go into, right? Like if I say no for this moment, like I don't know, is he gonna start doing lines of cocaine in the bathroom like later tonight? He's only 6, right? But like, is that the road I'm chasing him down to? And he can't come to me for anything because my work is more important than him. And it was in that moment I was like, no, I was like, what do you need? Like, well, let's whatever it is you need. I'm gonna stop what I'm doing right here, right now. And I really, that was kind of like an impactful moment for me as a father, as I was working through all this stuff. And another kind of point for me was we lived in a really nice neighborhood. Everybody like got along really well, and we all hung out. But I was the guy that I made my own beer, made my own wine, and it's a good chance that if you were talking to me and I was drinking something, I was drinking a beer, right? Like I remember walking around a Saturday morning, and my neighbor Jessica, she goes, and I had a glass of water. She goes, what are you drinking? I was like, water. She's like, why? I was like, I don't know. That's just kind of, I want to be drinking water. That shouldn't be abnormal, right? Like it shouldn't be out of the norm. And that was another thing that just kind of like, I was like, you know what, man, I'm realizing how much impact we have on our children, right? It's almost like they're like mini mirrors. Uh, they'll say what you're saying, they'll do what you're doing. And if I wanted them to be better children when they grew up, I needed to be a better role
Example.
model, like now, not later, like now. And so I realized I was like, you know what, my audio is not matching my video. I'm trying to be the best dad. I'm telling everybody to be the best dad, do all this other shit, and here I am, you know, uh, not living up and into like my own little space there, right? So those were a couple spots, and then man, I'd always kind of had like a foot in spirituality, and I ended up listening to like a lot of Alan Watts. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Alan Watts, um, but at some point, like I'm listening to this guy talk about the universe and all this stuff all the time. I'm already into like like law of attraction stuff. I'm not like, this is all that stuff's all still kind of new to me, right? But like it all kind of coalesced like at once, right? I went to sleep one night, and I don't know if you've ever done the exercise where you write down, uh, a message to the universe or God or whatever, or like something that you want to find in your sleep, or your dreams. I said something like, universe is like, open up, or like show me. Like if you ever remember the movie Christine from back in the 80s, like, and
Yeah.
Arnie's like, the car's like all beaten up, and she like cranks up in the corner. Like one time he turns around and comes back and he goes like, show me. And she just like fixes herself all right in front of him. Right. It was like that, man. Like I ended up having like this, like over the next few weeks, right after like that moment, those like kind of moments that are led up to it, I had like this full body high for like almost 2 weeks, man. And like this mad connection to like source and like, the universe, and like seeing like all this stuff that like, listening to, seeing like my, uh, uh, what is it? Thoughts become things, right? And just really stuff lining up to like everything that I was reading, like in Think and Grow Rich. If you're familiar with the book, right?
Yeah.
There's like a story where this guy like sells his gold mine to a bunch of other prospectors, and the prospectors that come up behind him only have to dig 3 feet further, right, before they hit that vein of gold. Well, like there were things that were happening. I was like, you know what? If I just go 3 feet further, whatever I'm looking for is going to turn up, and that's the stuff that started to show up. Or like I would set the expectations into the universe, and that would show up, man. So all this stuff is happening. I'm like literally body buzzing for weeks, and I'm freaking out, man. Like I'm like I don't even know what's happening, because I'm not drinking, I'm not doing any drugs, I'm not smoking, nothing is happening. I was like, I'm pretty sure like I'm going through this thing, and I was able to reach out to a couple people. Um, I reached out to a couple people that had just recently been part of my network. I had a Buddhist reverend that was in my network. I had a good friend of mine who was a motivational coach that had 20 years sober. I had another friend that was like, just this crazy Christian, right? Like, the guy, like, 30-minute prayers, like, eat a cake, uh, type of thing. All good, right? Like, but like, he was in deep. And I had conversations with each one of these guys, and I was reaching out to all kinds of people, but like each person I talked to gave me a little more courage to just accept what was happening, lean into it. I think the final person I actually spoke to about it all was my wife, right? And I was like, look, I was like, I'm going through this thing. I don't know what it is. What's up, bro? Okay. I'm going through this thing. I don't know what exactly it is that's happening. And I don't know if it's going to get better before it gets worse. But I'm a little freaked out and a little scared. And she's like, well, what's going on? And asking this question. She's like, are you on drugs? I was like, no, if I was on drugs, I'd have something to point to. Like, that'd be easy. And she was super awesome. That was like probably one of my most vulnerable moments with her, where she's like, look, I'm in it, ride or die, and we're here, we're gonna get through it, and we'll figure it out. But after that, it's been like that vulnerability was able to like even open me up even more, right? Strengthen our relationship, but also just kind of strengthen like um I don't know, the love sector of my heart or whatever, right? Think about like the Grinch too. Like I always think about like my heart grew 2 sizes too big, and it like busted open this cage. And so, man, I spent probably 5 years after that just chasing it all down. Like, what did it, I was already a coach, I was already in this space, but like I was like, what does it all mean? It was literally like a rebirth, right? I had to go through and like I had to learn a whole new language, a whole new different level of understanding. And ever since then, I mean, there's I've just been chasing it down ever since.
Is that spiritual dope? Tell me
That's
what
spiritual
is.
dope. Yeah, I mean, spiritual dope. So spiritual dope, right? Is I did another podcast. So I I was already like, so there I am. I'm like mad spiritual guy. I'm the guy chasing around and being like, spirituality. And I was like, okay, all right. I was like, and I realized I had to tone it back some, right? And there's this copywriter, a legendary copywriter who's passed away since, but he had a really good video that I was able to catch. And he's like, sell the people what they want, give them what they need. I created what was called the prosperity practice, which was, law of attraction plus, right? Thing that I was doing and into, but there was still like, I realized I still had like a shield up, right? And then I got done listening to Swami Sarva Priyananda, who's a Hindu monk on Vedanta, and I was listening to like one of his like 44-hour set off of YouTube, and in the middle of that, some like junior monk pops in, and he goes, "Here comes Swamiji with some more of that spiritual dope." And I was like, "That's it, man. That's what I'm feeling. That's what I've got. That's what I'm about." And that's when like I was like, you know what? I gotta stop hiding behind the sell them what they want, give them what they need, and I needed to like really lean into my spirituality and that process and practice. So created the platform and been alive and kicking it for, I think, coming up on 3 years now.
Awesome. So what for you, define what's transformational coaching and what sets it apart from other coaching styles?
Yeah, again, so when you are going through like this transformational process, like there's signals, right? There's stages that if you ever listened to or saw the quote from Steve Jobs, right? You can't, it's really hard to connect the dots going forward, but it's really easy to connect them going backwards, right? Like I couldn't have predicted what was going to happen for me, but now that I've gone through it and had the experiences, you can kind of recognize it in other people, right? So transformational coaching is really just kind of like if you're working on transforming your soul or transforming like your spirituality, and you're trying to have those practices in place, just walking through what that looks like, right? And that's different. It's only different in the sense of we're working on transformation of the self, of your spirituality, again leaning into that versus trying to have a business coach versus trying to have a sales coach versus, you know what I mean? So like I would call it transformational, I call coaching for the soul, right? But and I'll even step back a minute and say, I think all coaching ends up getting you into that space, right? Like if you follow those practices, it's all the same elements that you're going to find in business coaching.
Yeah.
Uh, um,
It's just so many different titles. Yeah, it's just so many
right,
different
right, right.
titles.
And if you look at the word coaching, there's that word root word like coax, like COAX. I want to coax the best out of you, right? And just show you how amazing you already are, right? And allow you to recognize, even if it's just a spark of, power, divine, whatever you want to call it, that's inside of you, that once you recognize it and that you are it, that you can begin to like just fan it, explode it little bit by little bit, and just feel the truth of all that you really are, right? And I mean, I think that's it. But and what sucks though is like until you start like taking those steps and getting on that journey, you're like, what is he even talking about? All of who you are. You can just shut up, man. Right? Like it's like I'm right here. I know all I'm about. But it's like it's that inner journey, man. It's really reversing the outside in and going inside out.
So how do you start off your day? Like what is one of the things that you
Yeah,
as a
man.
coach, as a spiritualist, what do you
Right.
do to start off your day?
First thing of the day, man, I got this. Nobody can read it, so that's okay. But it's like my chicken scratch right here. I've got like my 10 things that I'm most grateful for, right? Like I read it. It's the first thing I open, I look for my glasses because I can't see anymore. Right?
Yes, I know what you're talking about, brother. I
I
got
reach over for the glasses.
that's one of the first things I'm reaching for in the morning when I'm getting out of bed.
That's right. And so I'm reaching for the glasses. I do the first thing I do is that. Next thing I do is some type of breath work, some type of breathing practice. Breath work has been something else that's super huge for me now that I'm sharing with a lot of people, courses, and getting out there and going out and doing. It's another way that you can just totally connect with source, right? Connect with yourself. So I do that anywhere from like 5 to 20 minutes, right? Depending on whether or not the kids everybody's got to get ready in the morning, right? Or not. So, or if I'm going to do jujitsu, so I'll do 5 minutes of easy 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out breath work, right? From there, I'll read, right now I'm going through 177 mental toughness secrets of the world class. This is probably my second or third time going through that, but a small book that's timeless, not a small book, but any book, anything that's like timeless, right? I read a couple pages of something timeless. Ideally, I get to go do, like I do jujitsu, right? So ideally I get jujitsu. That's only 2 mornings a week right now. Um, and then I'll hang out with the family, man. Get everybody together, get everybody situated. But one of the last things I do, if I can do it, is I give myself like almost an hour before I check emails, before I check Instagram, before I check any of my socials. I just really keep that separation and make that first hour, excuse me, of the morning as much of mine as it can be, right? No news, no radio, nothing except for what I want to put in there or what I, ideally want to have kind of going on in my life.
Okay, yeah, that's understandable. That's so because I know it's something that I'm working on is building that routine in the morning where I have that time in the morning to just wake up, not check no emails, not get up and check my phone.
Yeah,
None of that is just be able to wake up, wash up, and take those 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is for you to just relax, just take a moment and prepare myself for the day.
that's right. That's right. Look, it's
And
your day,
yeah,
right? It's your day. And as soon as you start taking on like, as soon as you start reading emails or watching, reading the news, watching the news, anything else like that, your mind becomes attached to everybody else's agenda for your mind.
yeah, yeah. It's and that's something that's I really don't do is watch the news early in the morning because it's not something I want to wake up to. I prefer to wake up to a nice cup of coffee, a
Yeah,
nice shower, take my feel like I said, take a few minutes to myself just to get myself ready and just basically plan my day. Like this is what I need to get done. If especially Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, I do 3 shows. I do a
yeah,
show Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So and I have a day job. I have a 9 to 5.
it's a
I go
lot
to
of
work.
work.
I go to work. I start work at 3:45 in the morning. I'm out
Mm,
by 11:45, 12 o'clock. Come home, take a nap, set up the studio for whatever show I have going on that day, and then have my show, and then rest of the evening is checking emails, uh, checking out what I have lined up in the next couple of days, and then just after that is my time to go to relax and reflect.
yeah, man, I love it. That's great. And a lot of work, man. They're doing 3 shows a week. It's not easy to coordinate and pull that all together, and keep life straight.
Well, we met through Podmatch, and it's using tools like that that's helped me because there's I've within the I've been podcasting 3 years, so the last 8, 9, 10 months or so, I've been using more tools to help make things so much easier for me.
Yeah,
And even within the last few weeks, I've been purchasing programs that have been amazing for me. Like I
nice.
started doing automating my emails now, like where I have a weekly email of content to subscribers and stuff like that that I wasn't doing before.
Yeah,
These are the things that I'm learning. The pro the learn. This is the things that I'm learning now, actually through guests, speaking to my guests and
yeah.
learning
Well,
from them.
that's the
And
that's the power of it. That's the
yeah,
power, I think, of like hosting your own show and reaching out and talking to other people, and each one of the conversations, hopefully for you and like myself, right? Like it's kind of like it's bi-directional, right? Like you get to pick up all these different things, and sooner or later you look back. I still remember I still remember doing my first podcast. I don't know about you, right? My first podcast, like, I mean, I'm talking like in the corner of my house. I'm like, hey, thanks for checking in. It's Brandon Handley and tuning into fatherhood for the rest of us. And, got to the point, and you send out, right? You send it out and you're like, oh man, you expect like everything's going to just catch on fire, right? Like catch on fire either in a good way or a bad way. And then you kind of realize that like, I made it out alive.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably do it a second time. And
Yeah.
as you come along, like I still remember, I had a coach at the time, Adam Walton, and he goes, "Man, you're the voice of a generation." I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you're like the voice of a generation of like, your generation, like getting out there and talking to people." So I would start off like my podcast. I still throw it in from time to time. I would start off and be like, hey, it's Brandon Handley here, the voice of a generation, right? And one of the things that I always loved about doing that is that nobody ever said no. Nobody ever called. No, like I never got a phone call. I never had somebody send me a text. Nobody ever checked in and be like, "You are not the voice of a generation, Brandon." Right? So why is that cool though? Is because now like it's out there, right? Like I can say it and I chuckle at it, but no matter what you do, this is the story. These are the words that echo in my mind, right? And when somebody talks to me, like I have people reach out to me, like I have a couple of friends of mine that reach out to me that we've all been podcasting since the same time. Like, hey, is this the voice of a generation? Like it sure is, right? So we
But that's
we
cool
get
though. That's cool. That's something. That's something like to be able to have that, and because I'm sure we're probably both from the same generation, and I don't take offense to it. I'm like, listen, you probably are the voice of a generation. It's if that's what you believe. Hey, I'm not.
well, that's
I'm
the
not
thing, right?
known.
That right there is the key, right? It's what you believe about yourself. It's your willingness to like say it. And the more that you say these things, the more times you tell the story about, the voice of a generation, and more times you tell yourself about, you're stuck in my mind podcast, the more times you tell people you're a producer, and these are your productions, like the more each time it becomes real, right? Now you've got automation that you've got going on right now, right? You're like people now you'll be talking to somebody and you'll be like, what do you mean you don't automate?
No, it's been amazing to learn the things that I've learned that are I've so AppSumo. I don't know if you
Mhm.
know what
Yeah,
AppSumo
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
So it's Sumo Day. It's been and so it's the 12th through the 15th, and it's just been a great experience because I learned about AppSumo my first time at Podfest last year,
Okay.
and to me it's been an amazing like I'm like, where has this been all my life?
Sure.
Like
Yeah,
all having access to certain programs that you purchase one time and you have lifetime access to it.
that's right.
Is like I just purchased Cast Magic, and
Okay. What's that do?
well, I take my MP3. Say
Uh-huh.
I'll take the MP3 from this episode when I make this to and put it on my audio podcast. I'll take the MP3, feed it into Cast Magic. It will give me great questions and stuff to post, and from the show, it'll give me timed quotes from
Nice.
my guests and myself. It'll give me things that stuff I should probably tweet out on Twitter.
Nice.
So when I put the episode out on audio, it also gives me a post that I put on LinkedIn
Yeah.
specifically for LinkedIn with hashtags and everything. It's just a great tool to it's and it uses AI.
I'm not over here writing down cast magic. You are.
No, bro, it's great
You
to
love it.
like.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've learned is there are tools there to help you,
Oh, that's right. That's right.
and if you don't take advantage of using these tools, then you're a fool. But
So
that
I had
rhymes.
a one of my podcast teachers, the guy that I bought the like my first podcast course from, Sam Crowley. Every day is Saturday. Love the guy, great storyteller. One of the things that he said was that rich people buy time, poor people sell time. So
Mm.
when you buy a product, such as Cast Magic, right? You're buying time, right? You're buying that amount of time that would you create all the things that you just said, right? You're gonna have to go through. You're gonna be like, oh man, I want to post this to LinkedIn. I don't know what to post. Boom, press the button. It's done for you, right? What are some good headlines out of this conversation?
Yeah.
What should I be posting out to people? Oh my God, boom, you're buying time, right? How much is you really got to start looking at it and evaluate like how much is my time worth to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the other things are, man, what are some of the things I spend money on that give me no return, but I keep spending money on them, right?
Yeah.
I got cable, right? I got subscriptions to whatever. I've got this. One of the things that I get excited about is like when I do spend. I don't drink anymore. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, right? So man, I'm saving a small fortune. I mean, I should be, but I get to spend it. I get to like if I spend it on a product, right? Like Cast Magic. If I spend it now, I'm like, all right. Um, if I do spend it on taxes or something else, man, like I don't feel guilty about investing it in myself and what I'm doing because I believe in what I'm doing, right? Because I believe in myself. If I didn't, then I wouldn't spend the money on myself too. And that's the other thing. Who was that? That was John Vroman. He is a guy. Front Row Dads is a podcast I think that he's doing now. He was doing something else before that, but he made it a really good. He had a good one where he talked about when he bought like the Tony Robbins DVDs, like back in the day, right? Bought him, it was $90, $90 for this DVD set. And you're like, man, why would I spend? I was like, they're not worth that much. But when you flip it, you're like, am I worth that much? It's a question of how much do you feel like you're worth that you can spend that money on
To invest
yourself,
in yourself. Yeah.
right?
And that was one of the things when I first started podcasting is I was furloughed from work. I didn't I was getting unemployment, getting extra money, and I decided to invest in myself. I
There you go.
decided to purchase equipment that if I was going to be serious about this, then I wanted some of the best quality. I wanted to invest in equipment, and that didn't go spend crazy amount, but I purchased a quality mic. I purchased a quality camera. I got me the Rodecaster Pro. I took courses on helping me edit and video, audio. Took courses on
If you guys don't know, that's not a cheap mic.
this one here. No,
That's not
it's not.
the Rodecaster, right? That's not cheap
No,
stuff,
this
man.
no, yeah, the Rodecaster the itself, the Rodecaster itself, yeah, and then this mic, yeah, but it's because I wanted my quality to sound. Again, you said something very important: time,
Mm,
and time is something you can never get back.
that's right.
So for me, I felt that my guest, my audience deserved the best quality from me. The best sound, the best video, because they were giving me something very precious. So it was an investment in myself, but it's because if I'm investing in myself, then I wanted to show that it's worth it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love it. I love it. What got you into it? What got you into where you're at right now?
Um, I had in 2019. I had purchased a Behringer's podcasting studio from Amazon,
Hmm.
and me and a friend we were going to start a sports podcast, and it didn't happen. We didn't start the podcast, and then the pandemic hits, and I get furloughed from my job in March. And I'm like, and the wife has the wife is in furlough, but the wife is still working, so she has a honey to-do list for me, just everything you could imagine.
Sure.
And so I was like, man, I need some time for me. I need to really do what I want. I want to do my thing as well. So I was like, it's time for me to start this podcast. And my nephew had already started doing YouTube. So me and him started linking up more and doing more and collaborating more. And then one day we're just sitting here and I finally decided to press record. and I was using a little um laptop, using Audacity to record
Yeah.
because I didn't have any of the equipment I had. Like I said, I had a little Behringer studio, and I didn't even have the proper jacks because I was on the phone with my nephew at the time,
Right.
and I had the phone to the mic,
Oh no.
and he's speaking through the mic into and recording that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was the first episode.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "No, we can't release it." I was like, "Why not?" He says, "Because we need to perfect it." I'm like, "Nah, I want people to see the growth. I want
You
people
got
to
to see
see
the
where,
growth. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. For sure.
I
For
want them
sure.
to see where we started at to where we're at now."
That's right. Yeah.
And actually, the episode was 5 minutes long. It wasn't even that long. It was just
That's
an
funny.
introduction episode.
Yeah.
And what I did when I got up to a certain amount of episodes, probably like 30 something, 40 something probably. I did I did a reintroduction episode.
Sure.
So I kept the original 5 minutes and then just recorded another 30, 35 minutes of newer content.
Yeah.
And I just like the reintroduction.
Yeah.
And so it's been great being able to do it. Like once I got over the initial fear of releasing it and actually because I've probably recorded and deleted so many times before that and
Sure.
just didn't publish it
Yeah.
because I was just making up excuses talking about who's gonna want to listen to me. I sound horrible.
Hmm.
Like, oh man, I'm just self-doubt.
Yeah, it's all the stuff.
And
Well, it's all the stuff that pops up when you're going through the process. So look, man, I have podcasts that I'll do now that I don't release. Right, like I'm like nobody needs that one, right? And that's okay. Like I think that the important thing though is like you kept going, right? And I love that. You keep that first one and you did the reintroduction. I love to go listen to when I go to listen to somebody's podcast. I'll go listen to the first one, the oldest one I can find, right? Especially as I'm getting ready for interviews, I'll go listen to like the oldest one I can find and like one of the newest ones. And the gap from that first one to where they are now, holy shit,
it's
man.
amazing. It's
Yeah,
amazing. And the funny thing was when I first started, I have a few solo episodes, and it was me more. It was especially with everything that was going on at the time. It was this George Floyd situation.
mm,
The election was going on. It was just a lot of nonsense, and I enjoyed doing the podcasting part. It was just the content I wasn't enjoying.
mm,
And so when I decided to switch it more to interviewing people, sitting down with people and talking to people, is when I really truly discovered that this is what I love to do.
yeah,
Because now I'm having this interaction with people and they get to tell their stories, and it's a great feeling to be able to like have a platform where people can just be themselves.
that's
I
right.
can just be myself.
Yeah,
I don't have to put on a show. I don't have to act any. I can just come here, talk about what I want to talk about, have a great conversation, learn something in the process, and it'd be a great feeling. And then when you get a message from someone saying, "Hey, thank you for this episode.
yeah,
I
that's it,
needed to
right?
hear that."
Yeah.
Those are the things that really drove me to continue to do what I'm doing because God knows as an independent podcaster, you're not making any money doing this. If you're not,
Yeah, no,
you gotta
it's
really truly love this
well
to
well,
do this.
that's another good one, right? Like you gotta when I talked about doing my first podcast, right? The first podcast, that's what it was. Monetize your message, do this, do that. I'm like, oh, I'm monetizing my message, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And again, I was doing everything for the wrong reasons. I was doing everything for the wrong reasons. It wasn't coming from the heart. It wasn't in line with who I actually am. I wasn't being myself. All those things, right? I mean, there were touches of me in there, and I wasn't being somebody else, but I wasn't being true to myself, right? And I got to a point where like I was like, you know what, like this, it's not it's not what I'm trying to do. And there was a guy, Larry Hagner, he's got a great fatherhood podcast. I remember him asking in his group, he's like, man, don't forget what you're doing this for. And I was like, what am I supposed to shout out? I'm doing it for the money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who wants to hear that? So like, it was a really big, like, kind of like
No,
moment
no,
for me.
you're absolutely right though. It's you gotta when you focus on the money aspect of it, it's not gonna happen. This is just because
Yeah,
you're not doing it for the right purpose. You're
that's
not doing
right.
it for the right reason.
That's
You're
right.
not there to serve. You're here to serve, and
Right, right, right.
you're not serving anyone when you're just focusing on just making the money.
That's right. That's
You're
right.
not really you're not capable of delivering a message that is proper if you're just focusing on the money.
It'll always be tainted to man, who was it? I think it's Neville Goddard who talked about that. There's a couple of people that have talked about that. Like, if you go and if you're doing what you're doing for the money, then can you really trust the message?
Yeah,
Right. So
I agree.
somebody's out there and they're, they're doing what they do, and that's everything that they get paid for. Sometimes the message can be called into question. And that's been another big part of kind of spiritual dope and what I do there. Man, it's always from spiritual dope on. It's been from the heart, been honest. I mean, there's a pitch here and there, but usually they're pretty weak ass pitches. But they're generally, it's like, listen, man, if you do X, Y, Z, you'll have benefit. Like right now, I've got a breathwork course, right? But and I've shared out and I've gotten great response. And it's fun, right? So now it's like, all right, now I really want it to work. And it's like, when you really push it and you really want it to work, sometimes it can get like you can get in your own way. So it's learning where the space of, doing something that's for the benefit of others, that's inclusive of yourself, right? Because when you say be of service, we have to be careful that we don't become simply a servant, right? Like, we're not,
Yeah.
we still need to make our ends meet. We still need to provide a good service that's worthy of people's money too, right? So
Mhm.
I think that sometimes it's easy to lose sight of that and still come into alignment. I mean, look, I'm still in the process of that, right? Like I said, I do my breath work course. I teach breath work. I go and I give, I have engagements for it. But there's still like an element of, you know, not thinking money first, right? Still thinking of how's what I'm doing benefiting them, and even beyond that, being in the transformational space, having gone through an awakening, reminding myself that like I'm no better than anybody else. I'm no different than anybody else. I've just gone through a couple different things that other people haven't gone through that I might be able to help them out with, right? I've gone through certain stages, and here's some things, here are the benefits I've received from them. And if you receive like any of the benefits that I've received, and I can cut that learning curve down for you, then man, let me help you out, right? Again, I'm selling time, right? I'm cutting that time down in half. Cutting down, like I said to you earlier, I didn't go through a dark night of the soul, right? What I went through was um releasing some of my shit, right? I released the things that were no longer serving me, and I looked at how I could do that inner work. How could I? Because I'd never focused on myself. I mean, one pieces in there that I didn't really mention was like, I would wake up and like it was family time, work time, where everything was first. I was always last, right? So when you wake up first thing in the morning, like you're giving to yourself first, right? And creating that time for yourself. That was something I'd never done, man. I didn't go to the gym ever growing up, man. I was like nothing. I wasn't doing anything good for me. I was, just trying to do good for everybody else and, of course, do my job. But like when you start doing some things for yourself and giving yourself that space and knowing what it is that is good for you, you can help show other people like, hey, look, you don't like the first thing you got to do when you wake up isn't go to work. First thing, go to work on yourself, right? Get up, wake up and go to work on yourself.
You got to replenish yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to replenish yourself. Like that's something that we don't do is replenish ourselves, but yet we keep continuously give. Like
Yeah.
how can you continuously give if you have nothing more to give. So
Yeah.
unless you start feeding yourself and fueling yourself, you can't give. You can't just get. You're actually right. You just can't give. You have to balance it out. You have to
Yeah.
be able to fill yourself. You fill up your cup
Yeah.
at the same time as being able to serve others.
100%.
But this has been great, Brandon. I this has been awesome, brother. I appreciate you coming on the show. But
Yeah,
now
man.
is the
Thanks for
time.
having me on.
Now's the time where you get the solo screen and you just get to plug away and let people know where they can find you, where exactly they can get any of your information, any of your content, everything.
Yeah, sure. Well, hey, again, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's been great to be on the Stuck in My Mind podcast. And, kind of the stuff that we're talking about here is that for so long I was stuck in my mind until I started to give myself that time and the space to find out what's inside my mind, to deal with it. Stuff like shadow work, stuff like, what are my values, such as like, family, truth, getting in contact with spirituality, even just like accepting spirituality into my life. That's all stuff that I've gone through and put a lot of work into, so that there was like an actual development, right? It takes some nurturing, takes some time. And I cover a lot of that over on my platform, which is spiritualdope.co. Lots of interviews, similar to what's happening here today, where we dive deep into, what somebody's spirituality story is, right? And how have they been successful after it, right? Because a lot of people, they're like, hey, I'm all spiritual now. I'm just going to become a monk and leave the situation, right? And the deal is a lot of times that can be super tough, because you still got a family, you still got jobs, you still got all these other things to do. And guess what? You can do it. You can do it. You can have it all together, right? You can have your spirituality and you can have the material, as some people are loath to say. Come on over, check out the podcast. Also got some breathwork courses in there, and I've got a couple holdovers from when I did the prosperity practice. If law of attraction is something that you're into, I've got some really great material over there for you as well. Take it easy, y'all.
Oh man, thank you once again for being a guest, Brandon. Oh, did he leave? Oh, he left. You didn't have to leave, Brandon, but it's all good, brother. Um, I guess I'll be closing out the show. Big shout outs to everybody in the chat. BS3 Network. Welcome. I'm about to say, hey, you just
I'm out.
Uh,
Oh
but
man,
thank you once again, brother, for being a guest, man. I greatly appreciate it. This was fun. I was like, he just left.
where's he going? What's he doing?
But it is all good. But thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, anytime. Thanks for having me on.
But don't leave just yet. Let me chat a little bit after the show. But let me just close out the show. All right. Once again, let's close this out the right way. Big shout outs to the BS3 Network, Ben Sutherland the third. Thank you for having us a part of your network. Greatly appreciate it, brother. Facebook user, I don't know who it is right now, but when I go check later on, I'll definitely show you some love. I appreciate you coming through. Big shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J. You know you guys, I love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady, Fina. Love you and appreciate you. Big shout out to our guest, Brandon Handley, for coming through and sharing his story and sharing his spiritual awakening and everything. Thank you. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.